Hi and welcome to another bonus lesson from Vertex Pusher. In this lesson I will cover some topics that were suggested via email by you, customers, and show you some modeling techniques. First topic we will cover is modeling cloth. Generally the first idea is simply to use the cloth if you own the Mocha model. I mind you, this is recorded in the demo version. Okay, this is the release 12 demo. So let's try to create a blanket for this really basic bed I made. So one would create a plane, enable this wireframe mode so I can actually see the amount of information. I'll scale that down a bit, say something like that, and pull it out a bit so I can cover the whole bed. I'll select, let's say, 10 segments, maybe even 15. Sometimes you need more density for a cloth simulation to work properly. Okay, let me just scale it in this direction a bit. So before you use cloth, you have to convert the object to a polygon object. So press C, and now you can apply the cloth tag. If I press play now, this cloth, we'll name it blanket. It's always a good idea to name your objects. And we actually want that blanket to collide with this bed, so we will select that bed and give it a collider tag. So if I press play now, it will collide. Let's do that again. So now you probably think this is rather good. I have a starting point, I can tweak this, and so on and so forth. The problem with this is that no matter how you put it, you'll have too much information to work with. Look at this grid. You have to have this grid polygons because then collisions, if you wouldn't have this grid, you would have problems with collisions with cloth. So for really good results with the cloth simulation, you should have really high amount of polygons. So therefore this solution is really not a solution. Just a small addition. If you want your cloth object to stay as it is simulated, you'll simply go here under cloth tag, and here under dresser tab you would select initial state and click set, and then you can completely delete the tag, and I can delete this color, so you will have a starting point for modeling and use some modeling tools. This can work, but it is limited, it is time consuming, it is difficult to control, and it's not really a good workflow. So we'll utilize something else. Let me delete this blanket. The good approach for modeling cloth is actually to model it with splines. So let me show you what I mean. I will select a Bezier spline from here and simply follow the contour of this bed somewhat decently. Something like that. Doesn't have to be perfect for the tutorial. And I will simply move it, let's say here on the beginning. What I'll do now, I will copy that spline once. I'm holding my control key down. So I'll create additional copy and move it, let's say, here. I'll use a loft NURBS generator and put both splines under it. And now I have a geometry between them. Let me enable this isoparms. It will be much cleaner to work with. So watch what happens. Now I actually have ability to manipulate those points and to have a non-destructive setup. And I can even copy additional splines and also use them. So I don't have to work with all those grid information which we made with the cloth simulation. I can work with a few points. So I can really add splines here however I want and create the detail I want. And that's really good. It's non-destructive. It works every time. And there is a little trick. For example, if I select this uppermost spline, this one, watch what happens if I copy it. Seemingly nothing, but I actually can do a folding here. See that? I just exaggerated this a bit so you can create folds and create additional splines to create really nice foldings. And it's all about detailing now. Additional thing you can do now is you can here under simulation menu, under cloth, and this would be under character menu in release 11 or release 11.5. You can simply hold the Alt key and select this cloth NURBS, and you will actually get a settings. I can drop this to 0, and you will actually get a setting for thickness. So you can easily add thickness to your cloth, which is really great. So once you create enough detail that you can manually, then you can possibly use cloth and ensure these top points stay fixed and simulate only these parts that are hanging. Hopefully that will help you somewhat in modeling cloth. I can delete this object and go to a new one. So what's the point of having a bed if you don't have a pillow? Well, I got a few emails from you customers asking me what is the best and the most simplest way to model pillows. Well, that's a really easy one. So we have this guy here called Bezier NURBS. Let me just rotate it properly, something like this, 90 degrees. I'm just holding my shift key down and it will constrain to rather quantize to this value here. I think this is really too much geometry, so I'll try something like 10 by 10, maybe even 8 by 8. And if you go to point mode, you will see that Bezier NURBS offer, just hide my axis, it offers some nice functionality. It can control large areas in a smooth way with a single point, and that is exactly what we need. Let me hide my axis. So now if you really try to select that point, that would be problematic. For example, I can select this one, but if nothing is selected, axis will go into the center. I really can't select this. I can hide my axis with Alt D or rather press F12 and I will be able to select it through the axis. That comes really handy sometimes. Just pull this upwards, something like this. Decent enough. Press C to convert it to a polygon object. I always go into my faces mode and check if normals are oriented properly. And you can see here that they are not, so I will simply reverse them with UR. Because if normals are not pointing the right way, there can be problems. Some tools will not function as expected, and that can lead to a lot of frustration. The next thing I want to do is I want to drop this to under a symmetry object here, and this would be, I believe, yes, XZ. So you can always read that from viewport. So X and Z, and simply convert this also. I'll right click here and say delete without children, so the parent is deleted. Also, the smart move is to select all in one of the components mode and go in functions, optimize. So for example, you can put the default tolerance is 0.01, I believe. I'll use 1 here and hit OK, just in case if some points were not welded or something like that. I will select this outer loop and let me just uncheck this greedy search to show you something. The loop tool will not work. Even if you do this boundary loop, it will not work because of the way these connections are made. There is no geometry defining this 90-degree turn. And if you enable this greedy search, you will be able to select it because now it's became greedy and it wants it all. And also beware, sometimes it will not select all, so manually select what is left. Now you can simply iron this, and actually this edge that is missing here, also here, here and here, will help us achieve what we want. So let me iron this and I will show you. Just ironing. And what if I drop this under hyper nerves? Like this. There you go. There's your pillow. Go to isoparams mode. Now you can actually, for example, play with the maybe magnet tool and deform that pillow a bit as you want to give it some randomness or something like that. And this is the easiest way to model pillows. I really cannot think of a more easier way. If you want to do those little stitches, and you will simply bevel it and extrude it outwards and you will get that result. Okay, so let me delete this and go to a similar problem. Let me just enable this in viewport and I will show you what I mean. Sometimes you have to create indentations in your mesh. For example, you know that chairs that have indentations and some rounding inside. I really don't know the English word for it. So let me just demonstrate that. You know how to create holes, but this is somewhat similar, but just bear with me. So I will firstly inner extrude this polygon and I will move it inwards so I have an indentation. So if I enable my hypernerves, you will see the indentation here. And here comes the problem. If you actually now collapse this, for example, and you want to bevel this point to get a round shape, you won't get it. Even, for example, this is without subdivisions. Even if you add these subdivisions, you won't get a spherical shape, circular shape, I'm sorry. That's simply the way it is. So let me undo that. The best thing to do here is, without adding extra loops here, which can give you a really high amount of geometry, is to simply do the following. Select this inner face and inner extrude it once more and now collapse it. So you have a control set of polygons between the hole you will make and the actual other geometry. I really hope this is not confusing anyone. So now select this point and bevel it. I'll just hide my axis so you can actually see what is going on. So here is the same result, but we will increase these subdivisions to y2, because then I have at least some sort of equal geometry to work with. What I want to do now is I really want to select these inner faces, okay, and delete them. Now I have a hole. I also want to select these four guys, and I don't want to delete them, because if I delete them, watch what happens. This will happen. Okay? This is not good. Let me undo that. If I dissolve them, then I will lose that vertex here. I also don't want that to happen. I want to melt them with UZ. So let me enable my hyper nerves and you will see what is going on. Now you can actually see that those polygons here, I'll go into my point mode, are actually quad polygons, which is really desirable. They just look like triangles, but they are not. They are degenerated polygons. So let me select a loop here. I will select a boundary loop and simply smooth it out into a circular shape. And maybe scale it a bit. You see, this is the problem. This is the degenerated polygon. But once subdivided, it's nice. If it looks bad one step divided, then you'll have to manipulate it. So I will once more extrude this and scale it inwards. Okay? So now I have a really nice circular shape. The advantage of it is I didn't mess any other geometry around it. I can expand that selection and maybe pull that down a bit, something like this. And there you go. There you have that circular indentation. To expand a bit on that, we could actually cap this off. So I'll create additional geometry. Let's bridge this, guys, with the bridge tool. And for the last one, I always use close polygon hole command, which is MD. And I can simply select this and extrude it. Okay. So now you can have that little, how do you call that on English? I really don't know, but I hope you get the idea. So now you can extrude a circular shape or really a cap. For example, I extrude it once more. Pull it up a bit. Extrude it once more. And I hope you get the idea. Okay, this is just a demonstration. So this is a cap creation mini tutorial, something like this, and it can help you with stitches and you know those chairs from casino with those little metal parts and stuff like that. So I think this can be really helpful while modeling. Here we are with our next problem. Here we have a realistic female figure. Okay, so one user asked me how can he convert the hair done with the hair module, obviously, into real geometry. So let's do just that. Here I have a polygon selection, which roughly represents where the hair should be. So I will go here under simulation, hair objects, and I will simply add hair. Now I have a hair guides shown here and a hair material down here. I can actually delete that material, I don't need it. What I really want to do now, if I press play, then this hair will simulate according to the laws of physics, something like this. And you'll notice if I go all the way back in time, it will snap back. And I don't want it. I want it to roughly, just scroll a bit, to roughly stay in this actual position. So I will go here under simulation, and I can, under hair edit, do a set as dynamics command. It's something similar to current state to object. So now you will see if I go back. I really don't want to spend time modeling this hair, but let me do just a little bit, just for the sake of the tutorial. It will cover. So hair is really great. First thing I want to do, I want to maybe straighten this out a bit, and I also want the brush, so all I want to smooth it out. So let's smooth it out, something like this, and this side also. Okay, hair is absolutely fantastic, and I want to maybe cut these hairs that are right on the face. And I want just to brush it up a bit with move, so this doesn't intersect, something roughly like this. So let's say that you modeled a perfect hair, you're completely satisfied, and now you want to export this to another engine or simply convert this to geometry, and there is a problem since hair is not really a geometry. Well, the solution is to go here under hair, and here under generate tab you will select the type. Only triangles and square and circle will generate real geometry. Let me show you that. And here you can actually see there are too many hairs. Don't confuse guides with hairs. So if you want the exact number of hairs as guides, simply copy this number to hairs. So let's say 239, and you will get the exact same hair number as a guide number. Now simply if you press C, you will get a real geometry. And to test that, I can, for example, utilize magnet tool, and you will see it is really working. You can disable this surface option. Simply move it like this. See? Another great, often not seen feature is, you can delete this hair. Here under, I'll also undock this and close. Here under hair, edit, you have these two commands, which are grayed out since there is no hair. You can convert hair to spline or convert from spline. So this is really useful because you can actually build meshes, polygonal meshes, and do a functions edge to spline command. Sorry, structure edge spline, edge to spline, and so you have a closed workflow. You can model your hair with splines, model with the hair itself, or model with polygons and extract splines to convert into hair. So it's a freeway combination which always works. In this problem we will cover something that one customer suggested via email. He said he really misses the option to extrude objects along spline and to dynamically change that spline. Well, this actually can be done in Cinema 4D, but it may feel complicated, but really it isn't. So let's demonstrate. Create a simple sphere and I will convert it. So let's say for some reason that you want to extrude this face along some arbitrary spline you draw, and you want to manipulate that extrusion just until you get it really the way you want. This is one of the examples where you will abuse a tool which is not really designed for it, and that's the hair. So we'll create once again a hair object, and since I want only one of these guides, I will select here under guides. The root of the guide should be in polygon center. Automatically jumps to one guide count, and under hairs I will also set a count to 1. It's always a good idea to equalize this number of segments, so let's go for a really detailed spline like 12 segments, and if I zoom in a bit you can actually see those segments, and to be able to select those segments I have to, let me undock this. This will be the tools to manipulate the tips, roots, points, guides, or vertices. So for example, if you go points, you can actually manipulate those points, and I will also undock these hair tools and dock them here also, something like this. Here under generate I will set a type as a square, so, and we will say, for example, alignment, let it be like this. And here under hairs tab, the root will be also the polygon center. Now you actually won't see the guide at all. I hope I haven't lost anyone. And now you can actually use these hair tools, for example brush tool, to manipulate that to your preference. So for example, you want to create something like this. Straighten it out, or anything you want. For example, move. For this to be thicker, or to make it thick as this polygon, you should alter the thickness of the hair material. And unfortunately this method is really, let's say, clumsy a bit. There is no other solution except for those with plugins. Also here under hair, if I want to cap this, under generate, I will say and cap, and I will close that polygon. The good thing is you can actually manipulate this while, so you can use any existing tool and do some sort of crazy effects and whatever you want. In this lesson I want to cover something completely different. This is not so connected to modeling, but actually to create a setup that the customer has kindly asked me to do. Basically what he wants is a ocean with a believable surface and according deformations and the ability to put an object on that surface like a boat or a beach ball or something like that, so it would behave accordingly. And on the top of that he wants the ability to move or rotate the object that is floating. At the first glance it looks like a really difficult task, but in fact it is not. The only issue with this is that you have to have a cloth and a Mocha module for constraint. So let us build that from scratch. Firstly, we will deal with the ocean. So we will create a plane, give it enough segments. Let's say around 40 would be enough. Enough segments because we want to have really nice deformations from cloth simulation. Okay, I'll convert it. Let's also create a simple material that represents kind of a bluish water surface, something like this along these lines, and I will apply it here just to be able to see it more vividly. The next thing is to select the plane. We'll name it ocean just to keep things tidy, and we will create a cloth tag here. So if I press play now, the simulation will start and the object will drop. And it will drop because none of its points are fixed. So what we want to do, we want to fix all these boundary points here. So we'll go to our point mode, select our loop tool, and won't work unless you check this select boundary loop option. Now you can freely select those points like this. And here under cloth tag, you have a dresser tab, which is somewhat confusing because everybody would think it involves dressing of some sort. But here you have an option fix points. Click set and now those points will be fixed. So if we press play now, the simulation will occur, but those points will be fixed in space. I also want to disable this draw so those points really don't bother me in the viewport, and I also want to increase the simulation time, so something really long like 10,000, so we don't have a problem that simulation will start all over again. Now it will simply go to frame 10,000. I believe that's enough. Okay, so this it doesn't look like an ocean. It looks like some sort of a trampoline or something like that. So let's fix that. Firstly, here under a cloth tag you have many options, and we will deal with options here under forces tab. Firstly, I want to set gravity to 0, and I want to enable a wind in some directions. Here you can see the wind will go from Z direction, that means from here. And currently the wind strength is 0, so I'll put that to 1 and see what happens. And already we have some really nice movement. We'll maybe increase this turbulence strength a bit, so it's a bit more random, and really to dampen all effects so they don't appear so rapidly. You have to play with this global drag option, so really small values play here. For example, if I enter just 1 here, then the things will slow down. This will behave like a regular ocean. Doesn't have to be perfect, just to get the idea. And the surface is actually deformed. You can see that here. You can imagine putting displacements on it and to achieve really realistic look. Stop that, reverse back the time. Let's play it again, so we are sure now that we have proper simulation. Okay, let's go back. So that could pretty much cover the ocean part. But we have to solve something else. Let me build just a small representation of the ship, of a small boat or something like that. Let's say it's something like this. I'll convert this cube. Maybe extrude these two guys like this and scale them a bit inwards. Maybe something like this, and drop it all under hyper NURBS. I'll just enable this isoparms guy, and maybe I could select all these faces and simply extrude them inner a bit and then down. So firstly, we will position our boat. I'll just enable this wireframe mode so you can see more accurately. First I want to put this axis somewhere here, because where the axis is, that will be the line of water. Okay, I hope you understand what I mean. So let me just pull that axis a bit down, because all the calculations from constraints will be calculated also from this axis guy. Let's put it in the water, something like this. Now if we press play, absolutely nothing will happen with that boat, because we didn't tell it to do anything. We have to constrain this boat to this surface. And to constrain it, we will simply name first this boat, or bathtub, and add a constraint under character tags. And here you will see a clamp constraint. And in clamp constraint, we have the ability to first to add a target. The target for our boat will be the ocean, simply because we want to clamp the boat to the ocean. And here you will see options how we want to clamp it. First, we want to clamp it to a surface. And in which mode? Let me press play so you will understand these settings a bit more clearly. If I press play now, you'll see that the boat behaves rather good. It goes up and down with waves, but there is no realistic side motion or pitching or something like that. So let me stop the simulation. I will enable here under as option, I will enable this normal. Let me play that again. And I will actually see it behaves much more precisely. Okay. So here we have a fixed mode. That means this distance from the axis will always be fixed to this value. For example, if I drop them to 0, it will be always 0 from the surface. It works quite okay. It's not bad at all. And the last thing we want to do, for example, if we move now the boat, you will see it moves unrealistically, moves too fast. It really doesn't feel right. Or if we rotate it, it really doesn't feel right. Let me stop the simulation. To solve that, I will add another constraint, but this time I'll add a parent constraint. First, I will create some sort of a controller. For example, I will create a null object. I have nulls here under my special menu, so I'll create a null. And we'll call this parent. And here under constraint tag, we will enable this parent and add a target, just as we did for a clamp constraint. And we'll pull that parent inside and enable position and rotation. We really don't want to scale anything here, so we'll leave it off. And if I play the simulation, select my null object here, the boat will follow both position and, as you can see, the rotation. But we have the same problem as before. To solve that, we'll simply tune down this strength value from parent constraint to really small value, something like 1. And now if I rotate it, then the boat will follow in a somewhat lagged manner. Okay, so it works for position to, it will follow more naturally and obey all those waves, and it will look really decent. This is very simple rig. It can be really complicated for some situations, but this can really point you in the right direction how to solve something. You can even use smaller values here, or even play with this clamp constraint strength. So it will, you can basically mix how strong the effect of each constraint is. The constraints are extremely powerful. So since I believe this is it. This is the end of the bonus lessons. Thank you. This is the last one bonus lesson for volume 1. I'm currently working on the volume 2, so please fire away on the C4D Cafe topic, and hopefully you will buy and enjoy volume 2 as you did volume 1. Thank you and see you.